So Marcus, let's start with the big picture. You've shipped AI features at Stripe, Notion, and now Meridian. And you have this thesis that trust is the most important product metric for AI. Tell me why.
Yeah, so it starts with a really simple observation. You can build the most accurate model in the world, but if users don't trust it, they won't use it. And if they don't use it, none of your metrics matter. I learned this the hard way at Stripe. We had this fraud detection model that was genuinely best in class. Like we were catching fraud patterns that no rule-based system could ever find. But merchants kept overriding its decisions because they didn't understand why it flagged certain transactions.
That's fascinating. So the model was right, but the users didn't believe it?
Exactly. And this is the fundamental trust paradox of AI products. The more sophisticated your model becomes, the harder it is to explain. And the harder it is to explain, the less users trust it. We went from a 92% accuracy rate to about a 60% adoption rate, which meant all that engineering investment was essentially being wasted on 30-something% of the cases where merchants just said, nah, I owe better.
Wow. So what did you do? How did you close that gap between accuracy and adoption?
We made the model less of a black box. Instead of just saying this transaction is flagged, we started showing the 3 or 4 signals that contributed to the decision. Like, this transaction was flagged because the shipping address is in a different country than the billing address. The order amount is 3 standard deviations above this customer's average, and the device fingerprint doesn't match. Suddenly, merchants went from this AI is wrong to, oh, actually, those are all valid red flags. Our override rate dropped by 40% within 2 months.
That is a really powerful example. And I think it speaks to something deeper about how we design AI experiences. It's not just about building better models. It's about building better communication between the model and the user.
100%. And I'd actually go further. I think the biggest mistake product leaders make with AI is treating it like a regular software feature. With traditional software, you ship a feature, it works deterministically, users learn its behavior, and trust builds naturally over time. With AI, the behavior is probabilistic. It can be right 95% of the time and still completely destroy trust with that 5% failure rate. Because unlike a normal bug, an AI failure often looks like the system is fundamentally broken or even adversarial.
So let's go deeper on this idea. Why don't users trust AI? And I think you'd argue that in many cases, they're actually right not to.
Yeah, and I think this is a really important framing. When we talk about user trust, we often frame it as a user education problem. Like if only users understood how the AI works, they'd trust it more. And I think that's actually backwards. Most users have very good intuitions about when something is untrustworthy, and AI products give them plenty of reasons to be skeptical.
Give me some examples. What are the specific things that erode trust in AI features?
So I've identified what I call the 5 trust killers from shipping AI features across multiple companies. Number 1 is inconsistency. If an AI feature gives you different answers to the same question on different days, that's an immediate trust destroyer. Number 2 is overconfidence. When an AI presents wrong answers with the same certainty as right ones, users learn that confidence scores are meaningless.
I've definitely experienced that one with chatbots. They'll confidently tell you something completely wrong, and it's maddening.
Right, and once a user catches the AI being confidently wrong even once, they start doubting everything it says, even when it's correct. This is what psychologists call the trust asymmetry. It takes many positive interactions to build trust, but only one bad interaction to break it. Number 3 is opacity. If users can't understand even roughly why the AI made a decision, they default to distrust. Number 4 is what I call surprise scope creep. That's when an AI feature does something the user didn't expect or ask for. Like, you ask it to summarize a document and it also rewrites your conclusions. Even if the rewrite is better, it feels like a violation of boundaries.
Oh, that's a really good one. It's almost like the AI is overstepping its authority.
Exactly, like it's a consent issue. And the 5th trust killer is what I call failure amnesia. When the AI makes the same mistake that the user already corrected, it feels like the system isn't listening. Even if technically the feedback loop hasn't been implemented yet, the user's expectation is that correction equals learning.
So you've basically described a situation where AI features are set up to fail at trust from the very beginning. Is that too pessimistic, or is that the reality?
I think it's the reality for most companies shipping AI today. But here's the thing, it doesn't have to be. Every single one of those trust killers is solvable. It just requires product leaders to think about trust as a first-class design constraint, not an afterthought. And most product teams I've worked with treat trust as something that will magically emerge from better accuracy. It won't. Trust has to be designed.
That's a great segue into the framework you've developed. Let's get into that. All right, Marcus, you've painted a pretty stark picture of why AI trust fails. Now tell us about the framework you use to actually ship AI features that people trust.
So the framework has 4 pillars, and I call it the SEED framework, S-E-E-D. It stands for scope, explanation, escalation, and degradation. And the basic idea is that for every AI feature you ship, you need to have a clear answer for each of these 4 pillars before you write a single line of code.
Walk us through each one.
Sure. So the first one, scope, is about being brutally honest about what your AI can and cannot do. And I mean brutally honest. Most product teams oversell AI capabilities because they're excited about the technology or because leadership wants impressive demos. But overpromising is the fastest way to destroy trust. At Notion, when we first shipped the AI writing assistant, we had endless debates about whether it should try to handle every type of writing task. The temptation was to make it do everything. But we made a deliberate choice to be narrow and excellent rather than broad and mediocre. We started with just summarization and rephrasing because those were tasks where the AI was reliably good.
So you're saying scope constraint is a trust-building strategy, not a limitation?
Exactly. It's one of the most counterintuitive lessons in AI product management. Doing less can actually build more trust because when users try your AI and it consistently delivers great results within a defined scope, they develop confidence. And then when you expand the scope later, they give you the benefit of the doubt. Compare that to shipping everything at once, having it fail on edge cases, and then spending months trying to rebuild trust you never should have lost.
That makes so much sense. What's the E?
Explanation. This is about making the AI's reasoning transparent at the right level of abstraction. And I want to emphasize right level because a lot of teams make the mistake of either showing too much detail, which overwhelms users, or too little, which feels like a black box. The goal is to show enough reasoning that the user can validate the AI's decision using their own domain knowledge.
Can you give an example of what getting that right looks like?
Sure. At Meridian, we have an AI that recommends pricing strategies for enterprise SaaS products. Early on, we showed users a big dashboard of all the features and signals the model used. There were like 40 different data points. Users completely ignored it. It was too much. So we redesigned it to show just the top 3 factors in plain language with a show more option for the curious. Something like, we recommend increasing price by 8% because competitor X raised by 12% last quarter. Your feature adoption increased by 23% and customer churn has decreased for 3 consecutive months. That's actionable. Users can evaluate whether those 3 factors make sense in their context, and if they disagree, they know exactly which assumption to challenge.
That Stripe example you mentioned earlier follows the same principle, right? Showing just the key signals.
Exactly. It's the same pattern. Radically simple explanations that map to the user's mental model.
Okay, so we've covered scope and explanation. Let's talk about the next 2 pillars. But I also want to hear some war stories because I think that's where the real learning happens.
Absolutely. So the third pillar is escalation. This is about designing graceful handoffs from AI to humans. And this is where I have my best, or maybe I should say worst, war stories. Because most AI failures don't happen in the model. They happen at the boundary between the AI and the human decision maker.
What do you mean by that?
So let me tell you about a disaster we had at Scale AI. We were building a data labeling pipeline that used AI to pre-annotate images, and then human labelers would review and correct the annotations. Sounds great in theory, right? AI does the heavy lifting, humans catch the mistakes. But what actually happened was that the human labelers started over-trusting the AI pre-annotations. When the AI was right, which was about 85% of the time, they'd just approve it without really looking. And when the AI was wrong, they'd often miss the error because they'd been conditioned to expect the AI to be right. We called it automation bias, and it nearly tanked an entire project.
That's terrifying. So the AI's confidence was actually making the human review worse?
Yes, the AI was essentially training the humans to not think critically. And this is the escalation problem in a nutshell. If you don't design the handoff correctly, you end up in this weird middle ground where neither the AI nor the human is actually doing a good job. The AI is making mistakes it can't catch, and the human isn't catching them either because they've been lulled into complacency. So at Meridian, we implemented what I call friction by design. When the AI is less confident about a decision, we don't just flag it, we force the user to actively engage with the decision. We might ask them to rank 3 alternatives instead of just approve or reject. We might highlight specific areas where the AI is uncertain and ask for explicit input.
I love that. Friction by design. It's the opposite of the typical product instinct, which is to reduce friction everywhere.
Right. In AI products, some friction is actually trust building. It signals to the user that the system knows its own limitations. Now, the fourth and final pillar is degradation. This is about planning for failure, because AI will fail. The question isn't if, it's when, and how gracefully.
Give me an example of graceful degradation in practice.
So at Notion, we had a situation where the AI writing assistant would occasionally generate text that was factually wrong. Like it would cite a statistic that sounded plausible but was completely made up. Now, you can try to reduce this with better training data, retrieval augmentation, all of that, but you can never eliminate it entirely. So we implemented a degradation strategy. When the AI generates content that involves specific claims, numbers, or citations, it proactively flags them with a subtle indicator and says something like, "I've included specific claims that you should verify." It doesn't pretend to be perfect. It acknowledges its own fallibility. And what we found was that users actually trusted the AI more when it admitted uncertainty compared to when it presented everything with equal confidence.
That's such a counterintuitive finding. Showing weakness builds trust.
It does, because it's honest. And humans are incredibly good at detecting dishonesty, even from machines.
So Marcus, let's talk about something that I think a lot of product people struggle with. How do you actually measure trust? Because accuracy is easy to measure, latency is easy to measure, but trust seems really squishy.
You're right, and that's exactly why most teams don't measure it. They default to accuracy as a proxy for trust, and it's a terrible proxy. I've seen models with 98% accuracy that users hated, and models with 85% accuracy that users loved. The difference was always about the user experience around the accuracy, not the accuracy itself.
So what metrics do you use instead?
I've developed what I call the trust stack, which is 5 metrics, ordered from most tactical to most strategic. The first is override rate. What percentage of AI decisions do users manually change? This is your canary in the coal mine. If users are overriding more than 20% of decisions, you have a trust problem regardless of your accuracy numbers. The second is engagement depth. Are users actually interacting with the AI's explanations? Are they clicking show more on the reasoning? Are they providing feedback? If they're just blindly accepting or rejecting, you have either an automation bias problem or a disengagement problem.
Both of which are bad.
Both of which are very bad. The third metric is recovery rate. When the AI makes a mistake and the user corrects it, how quickly does the user return to using the AI for similar tasks? If they avoid that feature for a week after one mistake, your trust recovery mechanisms are broken. Fourth is recommendation velocity. This is about word of mouth. Are users recommending the AI feature to colleagues? We track this at Meridian through internal Slack channels and support tickets. When users start saying, "Hey, have you tried the AI pricing tool?" unprompted, that's the ultimate trust signal.
I love that. It's like NPS is specifically for the AI feature.
Exactly. And the fifth metric is what I call the autopilot rate. Over time, what percentage of users move from manually reviewing every AI decision to setting up automated workflows? This is the ultimate trust metric because it means users trust the AI enough to let it act on their behalf without direct supervision.
That's a really elegant framework. Override rate, engagement depth, recovery rate, recommendation velocity, and autopilot rate. I think any product team could implement those.
And the key insight is that you should be tracking these metrics separately for different user segments. Power users might have very different trust profiles than casual users. And if you only look at averages, you'll miss critical patterns. We had a situation at Meridian where our average trust metrics looked great, but when we segmented by company size, we discovered that enterprise users with more than 1,000 employees had a very different adoption curve. They needed more transparency, more control, and more explicit guardrails before they'd trust the AI with high-stakes decisions.
That makes a ton of sense. Enterprise users have more to lose, so they're naturally more cautious.
Exactly. And if you design your trust experience for the average user, you'll lose your most valuable customers. So at Meridian, we actually offer 3 trust modes. There's an assisted mode where the AI makes suggestions and humans decide, a supervised mode where the AI acts, humans review, and an autonomous mode where the AI acts independently within defined guardrails. Users choose their trust level, and we track migration between modes as our North Star trust metric.
Marcus, we've covered so much ground today. The trust paradox, the 5 trust killers, the seed framework, the trust stack metrics. Before we wrap up, I'd love to hear your vision for where human AI collaboration in products is headed.
Yeah, so I think we're at a really interesting inflection point. The first wave of AI products was basically let the AI do the human's job. Automate this, replace that. And I think we've learned that approach has serious limitations, both technical and trust related. The second wave, which is where we are now, is about augmentation. The AI helps the human do their job better, and trust is the critical ingredient that makes augmentation work. But I think there's a third wave coming that's even more interesting.
What does that third wave look like?
I think of it as collaborative intelligence. It's not AI doing the human's job, and it's not AI helping the human. It's AI and human genuinely collaborating as partners, each bringing complementary strengths. The AI brings pattern recognition at scale, tireless consistency, and the ability to hold thousands of data points in memory. The human brings contextual judgment, ethical reasoning, creativity, and the ability to handle novel situations.
That sounds beautiful in theory, but how does it actually work in practice?
So at Meridian, we're building what we call dialogue-driven decisions. Instead of the AI presenting a recommendation and the human approving or rejecting, the AI and human have a multi-turn conversation about the decision. The AI might say, based on our data, I recommend raising the price by 8%. Here's my reasoning. And the user might respond, I hear you, but we just had a PR crisis with this customer and they're sensitive right now. And the AI would integrate that contextual information and adjust its recommendation. It's not just the human correcting the AI. It's a genuine back and forth where both parties contribute information the other doesn't have.
That's really compelling. It's like the AI becomes a thought partner rather than a decision engine.
Exactly. And the key insight for product leaders is that this kind of collaborative interface requires a fundamentally different design paradigm. You're not designing a tool, you're designing a relationship. And relationships are built on, you guessed it, trust.
Marcus, this has been an incredible conversation. If people take one thing away from this episode, what should it be?
I'd say this. Stop treating trust a natural byproduct of accuracy. Trust is a design decision. Every screen, every explanation, every error message, every escalation path is either building or eroding trust. And in the age of AI, trust is your most valuable and most fragile product metric. Earn it in pixels, not press releases.
Earn it in pixels. not press releases. That is a fantastic way to end this episode. Marcus Chen, Director of Product at Meridian AI, thank you so much for being on the AI podcast.
Thank you, Alex. This was a really fun and meaningful conversation. I hope it helps some product leaders out there ship AI features that people actually love and trust.
And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe and leave a review. Until next time, I'm Alex, and this has been the AI Podcast.